grossa Zionismen.
Lebe Palästina, großer Zionismen. Lebe, lebe, lebe Palästina. Lebe, lebe, lebe Palästina.
I am here today to say that we are watching, that we are demanding the release of the leaders and so many people in association with the Freedom Theater, a theater that we have long roots with, a long history with, and when we say brothers and sisters, they are family to us. More than 2 decades ago at the Eugene O'Neill Theater Conference, August Wilson spoke to a small group of young people trying to figure out if art can actually make a difference in the world. He asked one question: what are your hands, heads, and hearts doing with your time on earth to make it a better place? Our brothers and sisters at the Freedom Theater in Jenin have been answering that question through art for decades. The incredible artists and leaders at the theater are heroes of hope and invaluable members of the international community of artists and organizers seeking to illuminate individual human possibility and activate collective healing despite the horrors around so many corners. They are invaluable members of our community, and the attacks on the theater, arrests of its leaders, and continued detainment of key members of that community is felt deeply by us and the world, and we will continue to watch and demand until they are released. Back in 2006, Jim Nicola and Linda Chapman, along with board member Kathleen Chalfant, met Giuliano and began a relationship with the Freedom Theater. Subsequently, they went to visit the Freedom Theater and brought artists, board members, and started a reciprocal relationship, including the hosting of the Freedom Theater at New York Theater Workshop. This is one of the central relationships and will continue to be felt and advocated for. We are watching, we will continue to watch, and we will not be silent until the leaders of the Freedom Theater are freed to be in continued conversation and do their invaluable work. When I think back to that question asked by August Wilson all of these years ago, he was charging us to confront the world that we were in and dream of the world that we can be in. That invaluable work has been happening at the Freedom Theater for decades, and we will continue to lift our voice to our brothers and sisters in solidarity and advocacy until they are freed.
Freedom Under Siege by Yahya Marais. Among all the previous raids, this raid was the hardest because the leaders of freedom, those who taught me what freedom means, were imprisoned.
What we have been seeing unfold over the past 74 days in occupied Palestine, in Gaza, and in the West Bank is not only a battle waged against Palestinian life, but also an ideological battle.
Despite the pressure we are going through, the phrase freedom under siege came to mind. I recall what Ahmed Tobasi said, quoting Giuliano Mirhamis: "The theater is my AK-47.
Nora Theater, which was founded by a Palestinian artist, is the only Middle Eastern and North African theater company here in New York City. And we're here standing in solidarity with the Freedom Theater in Jenin and with the Palestinian people. As a company dedicated to supporting and amplifying the voices of our diverse Middle Eastern and North African community, we stand firmly on the side of justice as we fight for our comrades at the Freedom Theater and all across Palestine."
With all this internal struggle and feelings of revenge, a sense of strength emerges, the strength of the theater.
We know that Israel's attack on artists is strategic and intentional, because artists have the capacity to transform society. Artists have the capacity to transform society with their stories and because artistic resistance is powerful. Israel is stifling these courageous and critical Palestinian artistic voices because they are so powerful.
Suddenly, an armed Israeli force storms right next to my house, arresting a group of young men and women, my neighbors. As I look out the window, a mix of emotions floods over me. Looking at my family, I feel fear. Looking at the soldiers, I feel strength and the will to resist.
We want justice, you say how? We want justice, you say how? End this genocide now! End this genocide now! We want justice, you say how? We want justice, you say how? End U.S. complicity now! End U.S. complicity now!
The occupying forces are trying to suppress all cultural and historical landmarks in Jenin, raiding theaters and demolishing our important landmarks. I call upon the entire world to take the streets, wear Palestinian attire, and sing Palestinian songs. I call on you to express our culture worldwide.
During a visit to my birthplace of Nazareth as a teenager, I will never forget my mom telling me what her uncle once told her, that when Zionist forces first raided the marketplace at the center of the city, the first thing that they destroyed was the theater, because that's what scared them the most. The power of storytelling has and will always strike fear into any military power. Today, amidst Israel's crimes against humanity in Gaza, Palestinian stories and our comrades' cries in solidarity are being silenced and demonized like never before. The continued Israeli assaults on the Freedom Theater in Jenin prove that that same power and fear of our stories persists today. The violent status quo fears the artists. I repeat one more time, the violent status quo fears the artists. My mom's uncle, Giuliano Merchamis, a co-founder of the Freedom Theater, who himself was half Jewish Israeli and half Palestinian. Despite originally growing up in Israeli society and rejecting his Palestinian roots altogether, Giuliano would ultimately make it his life's work to follow in his mother's footsteps, in Arna's footsteps, to nurture the artistry of Palestinian youth in the Jenin refugee camp. And by the end of his life, Giuliano described himself as, quote, 100% Palestinian and 100% Jewish. And although I have never had the personal privilege of meeting him, the honor of meeting him, Giuliano's reputation precedes him. Any interview with him, if anyone's seen any, proves just how quick-witted and unapologetic he was about his advocacy for the people of Palestine. How much joyful assuredness he brought to the cause, along with, of course, his deeply moving artistry. Giuliano was a true artist who not only challenged the authoritarianism of the Israeli state, but also challenged regressive structures within the Palestinian community. Because theater not only allows for, but actively necessitates us to think beyond our day-to-day survival towards the future world we want to build. Unfortunately, Giuliano did not live to see his original dream for Palestine come to fruition. So now, here today, I call on all of you, every single one of you, to bring that dream to life every day by standing in unapologetic solidarity for the liberation of Palestine, for the liberation of us all.
يا فلسطيني يا وانا بدي